This is part 2 of the video tutorial for Lesson 5.4, Solving Systems of Equations by Graphing. So we've already completed part 1, part 2, the first page. So let's go to part 3 where it says Solve by Graphing. We're going to be using the Casio calculator, this model right here, and you can see I've already got the answer written down. So I'm going to show you how we got this answer. Now, I do have the steps written out here, but I'm going to just let you follow along as I do that. Now the graph paper is here. I'm not going to fill this in because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the graphing on the graphing calculator because it is right there. So we have the answers. These two lines. This is a system of equations because there's two or more lines together. And what's going to happen is they're going to intersect. We're going to look for the intersection, and that happens to be it. So let me just walk through the steps of how we're going to do that. So of course I'm going to turn this on. And I've got a bunch of stuff, but that's okay. We're just going to go menu. And I'm going to solve by graphing. So we're going to get to the graphing menu. That's menu 3. And I just push execute right there. And I've done this already today. So as it turns out, the two equations are already typed in. So you would just type them into both ones. I would do 2x plus 6 and then execute. And then will give me the first one. And then negative x minus 3, negative x minus 3, and execute again. Now once you do that, you should have this menu right here that says draw. And I'm going to draw it. And don't worry so much if your calculator looks a little different, but you should see the intersection. If you don't see it, I've got some advice on how to do that. If you know they cross but you can't see it, one thing is just to use this arrow circles, this button right here, and that lets you move it around until you can see where they cross. We want to see where they intersect. There's this other option that you can shift and zoom auto. Let's see, shift, zoom, and auto is over here. And it might change it, that's fine. But sometimes if you really can't see it at all, it helps out a lot. But however you get to where you can see it, now we're ready to do the main step right here, which is shift G solve and then find the intersection. So this is the abbreviation for intersection right down here. So let's go shift G solve, and then I'm on the same button, ISCT, that's short for intersection. I'm going to push that, and there we have. Now I can double check with they put the system up in the corner. I can double check that I've typed it in correctly, and there's the point, negative 3, 0. Now when I write the answer, it's going to be as an ordered pair, negative 3, 0. And it is, it's a few buttons to push. But the more you do it, it's going to go quicker and quicker, and it'll feel more natural the more you practice. But that's it. So let's go on to the second one. And I'm going to say unfortunately, but what happens here is this one's not ready to go. The first example, the equations were already y equals. These are not. So I'm going to have to take each of the equations and solve for y. This step right here is called solve for y. So I'm going to do one equation at a time. And I'm solving for y, so I'm going to get rid of the 2x. And that's gone. Now this is gone, but I still have the negative. Now this negative represents a negative 1. So here I'm going to divide by negative 1 everywhere. This gets a -1, this gets a -1, this gets a -1. The negatives cancel out, the ones cancel out. Now I'm ready to do my dividing. So 1 divided by -1 is -1. I have a negative divided by a negative, that's a plus. And my 2x divided by 1, of course that doesn't change, that's just 2x. So I'm going to keep that one handy. So that's the first equation. But I've got to go, and I'm only halfway there. I've got to do it for the other equation as well. So let's go over here, and I'm going to take this equation, 4x minus 2y equals 2. I'm looking for the y. So first step is to get rid of that 4x. Now this negative belongs to the 2, so don't forget it. Make sure you bring it along. So negative 2y is 2 minus 4x. So when the number is touching the letter, you got to divide it off, and if there's a negative there, you go ahead and divide it. So if this is being multiplied by -2, here I divide by -2. Notice I have the same exact thing. That's what I want, to make sure the negatives cancel and the 2's cancel. And then everything there got divided by -2. So I'm ready to do the dividing. 2 divided by -2, -1. Negative divided by negative is positive. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then I've got an x. So I've gotten my equation for both of these. Pardon me, I'm sorry the camera keeps moving. Now at this point you might go ahead and notice that you have the same equation. And so when you have the same equation, or the same line, from the same line, this is from the part 1, it means there's infinitely many solutions. And so that's just what we're going to write here. I may abbreviate a little bit. Infinitely many. We're not going to list them. There's just too many to list. Now what you might want to do is just to go, if you certainly can graph it. So I can go menu 3, and well, I want to go back to where I put the equations in. So I'm going to do shift exit, and delete those. And I want to delete that one. Yes, I want to delete it. So I get start fresh, and it's -1 plus 2x. Execute. Push that little button down here. And this is not really necessary, but you could do that. You could go ahead and push that in. And I'm going to push execute again. Now when I push execute, now this appears here, draw. So let's draw it. Now I put in 2 lines, but I don't see them. If you ask for the intersection, it's going to give you a number, but that's just one of an infinity of solutions. It just happened to pick this one. But there are so many, we're not going to list them, and this is not the solution. There are infinitely many solutions, so we want to make sure we write that. And it doesn't matter what this says, because this is a situation, it's a special situation where I have the same line. So that's number 4 on this sheet. Let's do one more, the last one here, and I have 2 equations. And as I can tell, they're not solved for y. So we got to do that. 4x minus y equals 3. So take the 4x to both sides. And I still have, I got rid of the 4x's, but the negative is still there. I got to bring that negative down. Belongs to the y. And the negative represents an invisible -1. I'm going to divide by -1, divide by -1, divide by -1. Get everything canceled and cleaned up. My y drops down. 3 divided by -1, -3. Negative divided by negative is a plus, and then 4x divided by 1, 4x. So I'm halfway there. So I'm going to take the second equation and work it. So there's my y. I need to get rid of this -4x, so I'm going to do the opposite, which is plus 4x, and bring this on down. Yay, I'm finished. Now the plus sign you don't have to worry about. It's the minus. If there's a minus in front, you need to carry that one down. But a plus, just like when you see a 9, if it's invisible, that means it's positive. So this is just the invisible positive that comes down. And that one's ready. So I have my 2 equations, and we're going to go to the calculator. So menu 3, and this is just the old problem, so I need to start over. So I'm going to go Shift Exit, and we're going to clear these out. Now this time, this is another way to delete it. This says DEL. I can just delete yes, and go down to the next one, delete yes. So let's put these new ones in. -3 plus 4x, that's this one, and then, oops, I made a mistake, so I'm going to start over on that one. I accidentally pushed a button, and we go 9 plus 4x. I did it again. Oh, you push execute. Oh, I was trying to do something else. Push execute. And then 9 plus 4x. Execute. Now all this changed, and I push draw. Ooh, now that certainly looks like this first picture. Remember, if you have parallel lines, there's no solution. And sure enough, if I look at these lines, well, on the graph, those are parallel lines, and I do notice that in front of the x, here the slope is 4, and here the slope is 4. So they are that I could have figured that out without graphing, but either way, so here what we have is no solution. You can, of course, write the words no solution. If you'd rather do that, no solution. But this is the symbol that means no solution also. So those are the 3 different possibilities. You can either get 2 lines that intersect, and if that has one solution, so you name it. You could end up with the same equation, and in that case, there are infinitely many solutions. You write that. And the 4th case is the lines are parallel, and so there's no solution. Hope this was helpful.